So, Twitter.com. Rivals 2, trailer came out, and of course there was the initial response. Most were negative. Like, I would say vast majority of people were kind of shitting on the game after it came out. So, we're gonna look over what the general consensus was for most people. You know, what my thoughts were, how the devs responded to things. Smash players seem on board. Like, Stroder has been incredible at both Ultimate and Rivals. He's already more on board with it. You got people who want like supers and character intros. Supers, I think, are fun, but incredibly hard to balance. They did show off character intros in the trailer, though. Yeah. So when they first come in to the stage, they have the character intros, and they also have the victory screens, which this is cool as hell. People go into the different aspects of what makes Rivals Rivals. But that's not really the main point of what we're trying to talk about. We're trying to talk about like the broad community response and how the devs communicated. And I mentioned this before, but I think Twitter is like the worst possible way they could have done this, because Dan says something like this: seeing some discourse online about removing what makes it Rivals, the rivals make it Rivals. The base mechanics are important, but those evolved with Rivals 1 to support its initial design. The characters are where we shine. So this last bit, I was going to go into an entire discussion about how people don't really care about the Rivals themselves. Like, the broad majority of people who play Rivals 1 play so for the mechanics and workshop. I care about the Rivals. There's definitely a percentage of people who do like the characters and play the game because of that, but the vast majority of people, that is not the case for. And so yeah, I had this whole thing planned out. Dan tweets this out April 1st. 2 days later, I'm talking about the character mechanics, not the IP. So that changes literally everything. This is kind of what I mean when I say Twitter is awful, because it's such a limiting platform that people will get the worst possible idea of what you're trying to say, run with that, and unless you actually see that and respond to all of it, this idea will spread to everyone. So I do think going forward, they should keep, announcements about the mechanical changes and their thoughts on it to sites where they can elaborate further. Like Dan has, a Medium that he can post to. They can post updates to the blog. They have all of this stuff they can do. Don't do it on Twitter. Please don't do it on Twitter. Because Trevor went into the Drift AI mechanics and how it's not super necessary for making defensive tools. And oh boy, did people go off on this. Like, this was the tweet that everyone's like, man, this game's gonna be shitty now. But if you look at what he's actually saying, he's like, yeah, you can still make, meaningful defensive mechanics even without, having so much agency over what happens after you get hit. The shift is gonna be more towards like shields and what you do off knockdown and what you do off the ledge and stuff like that. But people just see, hey, Drift AI gone. Ignore the fact that, trajectory is going to be different, which he follows up on. Like, you don't get to have the conversation anymore because people already have taken this one bit. It says one of two. That doesn't even matter. They see the one thing and they run away with it. And so what you get as a direct result from this is Darai's Twitter. That's what you get as a direct result from all of these things. So let's take a look. I have zero hope for Rivals 2. It felt like I was watching Brawlout gameplay. I couldn't even tell what the fuck Rana was doing half the time, praying the sound design improves because Jesus Christ, it sounds terrible. Like, this is essentially the center for knee-jerk reactions. It is everything about this is bad. They are removing all of the good ideas. And I feel like doing, when you talk about the game on Twitter, and you give people little tidbits like this when you can't fully elaborate, it is inviting this type of response because this is what Twitter does. This is literally what Twitter does, is it gets a bunch of people who are like, yeah, gutting so many things that make Rivals unique. This is actually April Fool's joke. It's gonna be like for glory in Smash 4. It cultivates this kind of mentality. What the actual fuck, why, stuff like that. And so yeah, Again, do this off of Twitter. Literally all I want is Rivals, but with good online and runs at 60 FPS. So this is actually a really good thing to discuss. Because the people who like Rivals 1 and like the things that are unique about Rivals 1 are not the target audience for Rivals 2. This game is not being made for people who like the intricacies and like every minute detail of Rivals 1. Rivals 2 is being made for a more broad appeal because they need money and they want to make a successful game. And there's only like so much, Rivals 2 as a game is fucking incredible at the high level. Like the actual depth and skill expression and everything about it is really cool and really fun if you really like getting good at video games. If you are a hardcore grinder and you want to like skill gap the fuck out of your opponent, Rivals is your game. But that's not fun for most people. Most people want to just play the game and even if there's a considerable gap between top level and someone picking up, as there should be, and they're not going to move away from that, getting literally three stock and JV forward every single game is not fun. And I think the skill gap at which that can happen in Rivals is so much smaller than it has to be for other games. Because, parry takes so much time to get used to, because the ledge mechanics take so much time to get used to. Like, that's why they're changing them, is because people who have played Smash can say, oh, I can just shield, I can go to the ledge. Like, it makes it that much better so that people will play the game more, so they don't they don't hop on and get demolished and say, oh, well, I suck at this game, I'm not gonna play anymore. For the overall health of the game and community, these changes are good. Because you're always, the divide between the competitive community and the casual community is always going to be if you're generous, 5% of people playing for competitive, 95 people playing for casual. Usually, it's a much bigger gap, 99% of people playing casually. And then the people who would actually go to tournaments and try and grind and get good at the game, that is such a small amount of people. And that was, again, the community that Rivals 1 targeted and the community that Rivals 2 cultivated. So naturally, there's going to be a lot of people who are upset about the shift for Rivals 2. There's going to be a lot of people who don't want these changes added, don't want this kind of homogenization added, because they like the skill expression that Rivals 1 allows them. But yeah, you can't make a popular game if most people don't have fun playing your game. That's just how it is. Because if you made Rivals 2 play exactly like Rivals 1 but have 3D, and even just shields, and you don't do the ledge mechanic stuff, it's still gonna be hard for people to get used to. If you don't make the game more familiar to people, it's still gonna be hard for people to play. Because literally all I want is Rivals but with good online and runs at 60 FPS. There's no point in making another game at that point. And we may end up having a community divide like Melee and Brawl. We may end up having a dedicated group of people who then play Rivals 1 competitively and make, host tournaments for Rivals 1 and stick with Rivals 1. But I don't think it's going to be to the same degree, because when you look at the shift between Melee and Brawl, Brawl was not the best competitive game. Brawl was a major downgrade from Melee, and I don't think that Rivals 2 is a downgrade from Rivals 1. I think it's a change. I think there's still going to be all the elements that make Rivals 1 fun present in Rivals 2. I don't think you need no ledges. I don't think you need parries. I don't think you need drifty eye and whiff lag to make the core gameplay experience of Rivals 1 fun. Whereas in Brawl, everything was slower, there was tripping, hit stun was non-existent, so combos didn't work. It's not going to be the same shift, monumental, fundamental shift between the two games. There will be massive mechanical changes, and there will be people who dislike them and don't play the game because of those mechanical changes. But we already knew that as soon as shields were introduced. We knew as soon as shields were a thing that half the people who like Rivals are not going to play Rivals 2 because they can't mash buttons anymore. And it brings up the question, does that matter? Does it actually matter if people who like Rivals 1 don't like Rivals 2? And I hate to say this, but I don't think it does. I think you get people like, you get Alpharad to put up one video about Rivals 2 that's super positive. You get like other influencers, like CDN's been hyping the hell out of Rivals 1. He's gonna go ham in Rivals 2. You get people who get way on board with Rivals 2. Like say everyone from Rivals 1 stops playing Rivals 2 and everyone drops it. The actual size of the player base is really small. And I don't know if it actually matters if you lose even a majority of the people, which is something that could realistically happen. Like you lose a majority of the people who play Rivals 1. I don't think that actually matters, and I don't think that would stop the game from being successful. Because this game is still, like, it's still going to be a fast-paced, you know, exciting game to play. You know, the same core feeling of Rivals 1, they want that in Rivals 2. And they're not gonna stop until they get that feeling. So you know, for that reason alone, I don't think we're going to lose everyone. But again, like the amount of people that have been put off from Rivals 1 because of the pixel art, because of the unfamiliarity they have with the mechanics, they're gonna play this game. And if they're able to make this game more accessible, like it's fine for these two different games to have two different audiences. The potential audience for Rivals 2 is so much larger than what you can have with Rivals 1. It's not like the game being bad in that sense. Like if you go back here, like Rivals 2 fumbling and shit like that. Like it's not that the game is now bad because it's different. It's that the game is different and not made for the same people. And I think that's going to be the big distinction that people have trouble with, is that like Rivals 1 may not be made for you. You know, if you like Rivals 1, that's fine. But you also have to understand that like just because Rivals 2 doesn't have those same mechanics and does things differently, doesn't mean it's a bad game or a worse game. It means it's made for a different subset of people. The problem with that plan is that you replace your fans and there's guarantee that your game will take off with it being more closer to its competitor. Well, again, like they have ways of distinguishing itself from Smash. They're doing all of these, you know, Smash-like mechanics, but doing it in a unique way. Like they're doing ledges in a unique way. They're doing grabs and shields in a unique way. It's not going to be straight up like Smash, and it's also going to have more polish than Nick Brawl did on release. It's gonna have more polish than Icons did on release. Even Rush Rev, like, fun game, but it didn't look that great when it first came out. Like, the animations were hard to follow, and the whole spark mechanic was a big departure and hard for a lot of people to get used to. Like, I understand the mission that the devs are going for here, and I think it's something they can actually achieve. Like, have a genuine competitor to these AAA games, to Multiverses, to Smash, that feels even better. Because Rivals 1 is the best feeling platform fighter that I've ever played. And that's why people are so worried about Rivals 2, is because, yeah, Rivals 1 feels incredible. They like it, and they don't want it to change. Ober, they come with a good enough launch that doesn't have a Nick Brawl reaction. Yeah, that's gonna be the big question. First impressions are so important. And Nick Brawl, it's still actually doing pretty well, all things considered. Like, the Nick Brawl community, they're hanging in there, but it's still really small at this point. Got 60 people online right now. Change bad, copy paste game good. Yeah, I do think like the overall sentiment is what a lot of people have, and it's just not gonna happen. Like, you're not gonna have the exact same game with any new installment. Even like the comparison between Smash 4 and Ultimate, like they feel a little bit similar in terms of the overall game design, but like there's a lot of mechanics that they changed. So yeah, I think just making, you know, Rivals HD edition, if you will, like there's no point in that. So yeah, those are like my overall thoughts for the way the devs are revealing information, it not being the best way of doing that, and I hope they change that going forward. A bit of the community response, which has been very knee-jerk, very negative when we don't know shit about the game. Like, there's so much more to actually find out, and so much that we won't know until we actually play it and see how it feels and get our hands on it. I think they can make the game they're setting out to do. I think they can make a successful game that's closer to Smash than Rivals was, but still has a unique identity that feels really good to play and does a lot of the mechanics that Smash has better than Smash does. If you guys think they're gonna do fine, or if you have anything that you're worried about, let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe. Thank you all for watching. I am liking and subscribing. Outro music.